source then seems to be about a dangerous feedback loop.
Exactly. The more the leadership chased that external approval, the more constrained its domestic policy options became, which then fueled the internal crises, the inflation, the conflict, the displacement that we discussed earlier. It became a downward spiral.
So looking at the situation now, the source paints a pretty bleak picture of the Prosperity Party's current standing. It uses terms like morally bankrupt, economically broken, and politically isolated.
It suggests a total systemic failure, yes, a complete breakdown across the board.
But it doesn't end there, does it?
No, interestingly, the editorial frames this collapse not as the final word, not as an ending, but as the beginning of a reckoning.
A reckoning. Meaning what?
A painful, maybe, but ultimately necessary moment. A kind of forced accountability where the nation has to confront the fundamental falsehood, the core ideological error upon which this whole political project was allegedly built.
And that central lie, according to the editorial, is?
It's the lie that submission to hegemony brings progress. That's the intellectual takeaway of the entire critique.
Submission to hegemony.
Meaning the idea that perfectly aligning with dominant global power structures, accepting that role of servitude we discussed, would somehow unlock rapid development, stability, and prosperity.
And the collapse proves that wrong.
The internal collapse, drowning in debt, racked by inflation, mired in conflict, is presented as the definitive proof that this premise was a destructive illusion. It didn't bring progress, it brought crisis.
And this reckoning, presumably, also has to confront the internal methods of control, the things we talked about earlier.
Absolutely. The political purges, the silencing of independent media, the constant militarization used to maintain order. The source offers a reminder here. Nations built on propaganda cannot silence their people forever.
Because reality catches up.
Exactly. Economic despair, the sheer human cost of constant conflict.
Yeah.
Eventually, these things erode the power of state propaganda and control. They make the government's position ultimately unsustainable, the source argues.
So if the political structure is described as broken and the economy is in deep trouble, where does this editorial actually find any source of hope?
Well, it points very firmly towards the Ethiopian people themselves. It talks about their unmatched resilience.
Resilience born from history.
Yes, that resilience is framed as being rooted in this deep historical endurance. The source lists what they've weathered: imperialism, famine, dictatorship, and deceit over their long modern history.
So there's a capacity to endure.
A capacity for survival, yes, and potentially for political reorganization that goes beyond the lifespan of any single political party or leader. This enduring strength of the people is positioned as the real foundation for any possible rebuilding in the future.
But resilience alone isn't enough, is it?
No, the editorial insists that resilience needs to be actively channeled into fundamental change. It lays out a final requirement for any real renewal.
Which is?
That the awakening of the people must reject the cyclical curse of leaders who mistake obedience for order and foreign interests for vision.
Break that down a bit.
It's a challenge to future leaders, and maybe to the people choosing them. Prioritize an authentic sovereign national plan that genuinely serves Ethiopia's interests. Don't just fall back into the trap of maintaining political order by complying with external demands or using centralized force. Find a different path.
So the entire analysis really builds towards this final profound warning, doesn't it? It sums up the lesson learned from this whole alleged political failure.
It does. History is whispering. Prosperity built on propaganda cannot stand.
Prosperity built on propaganda cannot stand.
It summarizes the whole trajectory perfectly, according to this view. The outward appearance, the facade of prosperity built on manipulated stories at home and these transactional dependencies abroad, it inevitably crumbles when it hits the hard realities of debt, internal war, hyperinflation. The true measure of a nation's strength and stability, the source concludes, has to be its economic sovereignty and its genuine commitment to its own people, not how much applause it gets from Washington or Brussels.
So this deep dive has really unpacked a very critical, and I think you'll agree, quite provocative perspective on the decline of Ethiopia's Prosperity Party.
Definitely.
It argues for this deep, complex link between internal political choices and ambitions and these calculated external geopolitical pressures. The central learning nugget, really, that we've drawn from synthesizing this geopolitical analysis for you is that the PP's collapse is presented almost as a textbook case study. A case study in how sacrificing a genuine sovereign national vision in favor of chasing external validation, basically accepting that strategic pawn role we discussed, leads, perhaps inevitably, to deep domestic crisis and political bankruptcy.
Yeah, the editorial makes a really powerful case that In this specific context, seeking foreign validation acted like a destructive mirage.
How so?
Well, chasing it, the argument goes, diverted essential resources, diverted political focus away from tackling fundamental domestic challenges.
Yeah.
And that led to a system that ultimately became, as the source termed it, parasitic and completely unsustainable.
Okay, so we want to leave you, our listener, with a final thought to maybe mull over, drawing directly from the source material we've analyzed today. The source makes this claim that Ethiopia's youth, the very same generation it says, was once devoured by false promises, that they are now perhaps uniquely positioned to potentially rebuild what politics destroyed.
Potential turning point.